The 30th anniversary and annual meeting of the African Export-Import Bank, AfCFTA, is underway in Accra, Ghana, where stakeholders have been putting heads together and brainstorming on the way forward for African investments and businesses. Arise correspondent Boason Omofaye has been on the ground with his team, tracking proceedings. He joins us now to provide a review and an overview of the ongoing event. Thanks for joining us, Boason. I can see the flags behind you. Hello, Boason.
Yes, of course. It's right here out there. It's about 30 degrees centigrade. It's really hot for the Accra sun. So the whole team's been standing here in the sun. But it's a very interesting atmosphere. We need all the vitamin C, whatever we can get from the African sun.
But let me ask you, what are the key highlights so far at the AfCFTA annual meeting for 2023?
Well, of course, you know, as the name goes, it's Africa Export-Import Bank, which is basically a trade facilitation, how do I put it, a trade facilitation DFI, which is a development finance institution. So basically, when AfCFTA Bank gathers together for its annual meetings, it's going to be more about trade promotion for Africa, not just for multinationals, but also for small and medium enterprises. There will be art, the field of literature, the field of creative arts, the field of food security. But of course, there have been discussions as well around security across Africa. So what happens in the last few days in one of the East African countries with the Al-Shabaab who went to school and they killed a number of students, male and female. The country in Uganda is currently mourning as we speak. This is a blight on Africa's whole drive to attract investment. So right now, the issue of peace and security is right up on the agenda at this very particular four-day meeting, as well as food and other low-hanging fruit in terms of finance and trade facilitation. Dr. Ruben?
Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, in his one-on-one interaction, talked about obstacles hindering African trade, including basic issues like visas and travel. Now there's talk about better connectivity. What was the pulse in the room? Do you think African countries are really ready for such interconnectivity, especially against the backdrop of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AfCFTA?
Yes, we all know air travel is one of the big issues in Africa. The common common African passport to the African Union is still being pursued. A few Africans who are diplomats and deep pocket individuals, such as Aliko Dangote and others, are getting the African passport so that they can move freely within the continent. But there's still a whole lot of breaking down the barriers. So when Wamkele Kene, who is the head of the AfCFTA Secretariat, spoke about the need to put finance behind trade barriers and ensure that trade barriers without finance that will not happen. So apart from trade barriers, Africa needs to still work very hard on movement barriers, either by land, by air. If you look at the East African corridor, for example, all the way to the Comesa region, which is the common market for East and Southern Africa, there's still a whole lot of trucking and land issues, transport issue between Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, the way down to Rwanda, then you go down to Mozambique, and all the way to Southern Africa. So we have a lot to do. If you look at West Africa here, between Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, all the way to Senegal, you talk about the African highway that will take you from Lagos all the way through to Cote d'Ivoire and beyond. That highway hasn't really been built. So we need to build infrastructure both by land, by air across the continent. So until we can remove these barriers in which goods and trucks get stopped at one border between Nigeria, Togo, Benin, as well as Ghana, as well as you find in East Africa, until we remove these barriers, we'll not really be able to do trade. For those who are big pockets, those who can go by air, like Aliko Dangote and others, they will need to deal with a passport. You still need, a couple of countries in Africa still need visas to go through. It has to be an open skies for the African continent, just the way you have it in Europe, but it's still work in progress, by the way. Some of the things that AfCFTA is dealing with in partnership with the African Union heads of state and governments. Dr. Ruben?
Well, indeed, work in progress. Open skies agreement, integration, cooperation, collaboration, and all of that. But what else is on the menu for today at the summit?
Well, what is on the menu is that I haven't had lunch, by the way. I'm not sure if you had, but you've been in the studio, Dr. Rubin. And none of my team got it. I don't know what is on the menu, but after this, we'll go check what is the menu. But I can tell you that they've got some good cuisine here in Accra. They got some nice boiled yam, they got fish, they got kenkey, and a few others. So that is on one side. The second side is that as far as the program here is concerned, it's still loaded. This session coming right after this was that with Professor Wole Soyinka, who will talk about art and literature. We want to grab that as well. Later in the day, we'll hear from another panel, which is the second to the final for the day, which will have the president and the chairman of El Sawedia Electric out of Egypt, who will be speaking on that particular panel. They will be speaking on what you call the corporate perspective to the entire intra-Africa trade. That will be the second to the final panel for today. Tomorrow, we're going to have a whole lot more panel to talk about energy and involvement of the Afreximbank in the energy sector, in the oil and gas, in renewable energy, in art, in creative art as well. So there's a whole lot that we're going to have over the next few days. But again, we're all on the ground here in Accra, Ghana, the AICC, for Africa News Channel.
Okay, I mean, you cannot be more correct when you say there's a lot on the menu. I imagine that Professor Soyinka will be using the opportunity of this platform to pay tribute to Ama Ata Eido, a leading prominent Nigerian, Ghanaian writer who just passed. And then talking about menu, well, taste Ghanaian jollof rice. I have my own ideas about Nigerian jollof rice being better than Ghanaian jollof rice. But when you come back, we can compare notes. Okay? Okay. Thank you very much for joining us on This Day Live, this Sunday talk show, Boason Omofaye, and enjoy Ghana.